I almost kind of dislike talking about movies that are targeted at a younger audience because that line between if something is just made for kids or is just simply terrible is sometimes hard to distinguish as someone who is older. Like watching half the shows I grew up with probably won't hit the same except for nostalgic reasons. But I always saw it a bit differently when looking at Disney or Pixar animated releases. And that's because they were tolerable, not highly simplistic, and one could actually tell that thought was put in to cater to all sorts of audiences. Now, before I get any deeper, I ask if you guys could drop a like and subscribe to the channel, as this content will only get better and better, and I would love to have you guys along the journey. But yeah, as movie viewers, I think we have been truly spoiled over the past couple of years when it comes to the enjoyment that can be obtained from these kid-targeted films. Whether it's the likes of The Incredibles, Finding Nemo, the original Toy Story in fact, or even more recent releases such as Coco, such as Soul, such as Encanto. So when we get these actual kids movies that really tries to aim itself truly at kids from these companies, such as Lightyear, it's sort of like oh, okay, I can't really be mad. This is the target demographic. Now the movie itself is supposed to be the actual film that Andy watches in the original Toy Story, which inspires him to get the Buzz Lightyear action figure. A man who in this film is shown to be the strict but courageous space ranger who lets his obsessiveness take over to the point where he loses his ideal future and life with his best friend along the way. He spends the remainder of the film coming to terms with the fact that the status quo has been changed, and that wanting to go back now will alter the lives of many people. And in a lot of the cases, it will be altered for the worst. The connections they would never make, the events that would never happen, and the family they would never create. It makes you question if the lost life of one is worth the potential successful lives of hundreds of others. And while it's a beautiful message, it kinda gets wasted when it's plastered in your face like a jumbotron every 10 minutes. And like I said, it's a kids movie that prioritizes kids. I can't really be mad. It's just that we have so many other PG animated films, especially in recent years, that have adapted a more mature way of storytelling that is still able to be taken in digestible bites. Like they were able to juggle complex themes and alluding to concepts that can leave an impression on an older audience, while still showing captivating visuals and teaching surface level morals to the youth. So I find myself having two different judgments on this movie, based on if I take it as is or add context to the mixture. Because when it comes to this film, subtlety is definitely a lost art. Multiple times throughout Lightyear will an event happen that is supposed to build a character growth in some sort of fashion or reason, and instead of just trusting its impact, we spend an extra couple minutes as the characters verbally tell us their exact thoughts and what they learned from the exact situation. No assumptions being made, no nonverbal cues. Just characters straight up telling each other how they feel after every important scene. And even when attempts are made to foreshadow something important, they focus so much attention on that foreshadowed idea so many times that they're essentially just telling the audience that, just wait a second, it's going to come later on. And a perfect example can be seen that entire Penn storyline. You also have a good 70% of the conflict only happening because a person accidentally hit something or accidentally drops something, which triggers a certain obstacle to hinder our characters along the way. And a part of that 70% of conflicts, 80% of the tension that comes from those conflicts only is caused by a character accidentally dropping or trying to keep safe a valuable MacGuffin of some sort for the plot. And so I see so many plot holes in the story structure. I see these almost obnoxious attempts at showing subtlety, and I just think to myself, where is the line between this being a bad movie and it being a simple movie? Because if I shut down my brain for a second and ignore the blatant shortcomings, story-wise of course, and simply just saw it as a kid's movie it is 1,000 times better. Because I like seeing the cool action scenes, using these futuristic tech weapons to fight. I enjoyed suspending my belief so that the reveal of who Zurg was is way more entertaining. I had fun watching Buzz grow closer with Izzy Hawthorne, the granddaughter of his best friend Alicia Hawthorne, who Buzz has to realize isn't his former friend, and how that's okay. And man, if I don't have a pair of socks by the end of the week, I'm gonna lose it. But is that enjoyment I gained from Lightyear enough to be okay to ignore the rest of its flaws? Do I judge the movie as the 5.5 out of 10 that it is? Or do I just shut down and enjoy it as the 8 out of 10 kids movie it is? This is a conflict that we have a luxury of not having to face in a cool bit when it comes to Disney Pixar, because usually the quality of enjoyment is felt to the same degree across all levels. So after going through my 7 stages of grief, I came to the understanding that, yep, it's just a kids movie, and it surely was not made for me. So maybe I shouldn't judge it as such, or to such a critical degree. Now, even before this movie's release, it was making headlines for a lesbian kiss that took place between Alicia Hawthorne and her wife. A drastic moment that made way for several people to ask for it to be cut out the movie itself. It even got to the point that Disney themselves wanted the kiss to be cut out of the final version of the film in order to please certain overseas markets. This isn't the first time Disney has made these decisions to please those certain markets, just like if anything involving John Boyega's character of Finn and how they handled his promotions. But yeah, this kiss made such a ruckus and only stayed in because of Pixar and fan pushback, which inevitably caused over 14 countries to outright ban its release there. Now, I'm not one to air out any opinions on this channel that aren't related to the film itself, but I am going to be 100% completely honest when I say that seeing that kiss was nothing major in the slightest. It quite literally took me a couple of minutes to actually process what happened, because I really didn't notice it at all. There just seems to be a lot of conflict on both sides of the argument for something that will be forgotten 10 seconds later if you weren't actively looking for it. But hey, deal with that information what you will. I am more focused on the fact that this movie surprisingly shares a lot of the same messages as Spy Kids 4. Ultimately, the movie was simply an alright continuation to a beloved series, coming up on 30 years in the making, and there is no need to look for anything more. And while yes, it is fun when themes are able to be reflected by an older audience, it's just a kids movie. No need to be uptight about it. Disney Pixar is getting paid regardless, with this movie now sitting at around $160 million in the box office. And as a fan, we get another installment into a now classic franchise.
No back talk. I have a laser, and I will use it. You mean the laser that's a light bulb? Has your mind been melded? You could have killed me, Space Ranger. Or should I say, traitor? I don't have time for this. Halt! I order you to halt! Oh! What? Listen to me, listen! Wait.